Okay, so here we are, early 2026, and the world is, well, it's on the brink. And not because of one crisis, but two, unfolding at the exact same time. On one side of the planet, a nation is collapsing into famine. On the other, an entire region has just exploded into war. But these aren't separate stories, they're deeply connected, and we're going to break down exactly how.
First, let's turn to Sudan. And I want you to just look at this number for a second. 21 million. It's almost impossible to really wrap your head around, right? That's how many people are facing extreme hunger, literally teetering on the very edge of famine. It's a humanitarian catastrophe on a scale that's just hard to fathom.
And while all of that is happening, this is the official alert status for the Middle East, an active, multi-front war, erupting and pulling in major world powers. So you've got one part of the world starving while another is burning. And these two stories, they're not just running in parallel, they are absolutely on a collision course.
So let's really dig into Sudan first, because what's going on there is, according to the International Rescue Committee, tragically the world's largest humanitarian and displacement crisis. And honestly, this isn't just a crisis, it's a full-on state collapse happening right before our eyes.
So just how bad is it? I mean, this chart really lays it out. A devastating civil war means that 33.7 million people now need humanitarian aid just to survive. Let that sink in. That is 2/3 of the entire population. 2 out of every 3 people in the country are now completely dependent on aid. And all that conflict, it's kicked off the largest and, get this, the fastest displacement crisis on the entire planet. Inside Sudan, you've got 8.8 million people who have been forced to flee their homes. And then there's another 4 million, mostly women and children, who've become refugees, spilling into neighboring countries that just don't have the resources to help.
And you know, what we're really seeing here is society just crumbling. Take this number, 70%. That's the percentage of hospitals in Sudan that have been destroyed. The healthcare system has been practically erased, leaving millions defenseless just as diseases like cholera are starting to surge.
And it is so important to remember what's behind these staggering statistics. This quote from the IRC's country director in Sudan just says it all. We're not talking about data points on a chart. We are talking about millions of individual human beings whose lives are literally hanging by a thread. Okay, so now let's shift gears to that second major crisis. We're moving from a state that's collapsing inward to a full-blown, multi-front war that is absolutely ignited across the Middle East, completely rewriting the geopolitical map practically overnight. So what kicked this all off? What was the spark? February 28, 2026. In the immediate aftermath of the assassination of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, a joint U.S.-Israeli military campaign against Iran was launched. And with that one single event, the entire region was set on fire.
And believe me, this is not some simple two-sided fight. Not at all. As this table shows, it's a tangled, complex mess. You've got the US and Israel engaging Iran directly, sure. But then you have Iran's allies, groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis down in Yemen, opening up totally new fronts. We're talking active combat zones from the Mediterranean all the way to the Persian Gulf.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. You see this incredible complexity even within these groups. We're getting reports from inside Hezbollah of some serious internal tension. On one side, you have the political leader Sheikh Naim Qassem, who's seen as a pragmatist trying to keep Lebanon from being dragged into a totally destructive war. But he's clashing with the hardline military wing, which is ideologically convinced that this is it, the final existential battle with Israel. So think about it. We've got a nation literally collapsing in Africa, and this huge war spreading across the Middle East. But here's the thing. These aren't just contained regional stories, not by a long shot. Instead, they're creating a single, massive global shockwave that is now putting our most critical systems under unbelievable strain. All right, let's talk about how this hits home for everyone. First up, energy and trade. The Strait of Hormuz? I mean, this is one of the most critical maritime choke points for the entire world's oil supply, is now, for all intents and purposes, closed. This isn't just a disruption. It's like someone reached out and clamped shut a main artery of the global economy. And you can see the immediate results right here. In March alone, Brent crude oil prices just shot up by 63%. And if you want some perspective on that, that is the biggest single-month jump we've seen since 1988. This is a violent, massive shock to the global energy market. And look, this isn't just some abstract number on a stock ticker. This is hitting people's daily lives hard. All of a sudden, you've got fuel rationing in Slovenia. You have petrol shortages in Australia. Back in the US, gas prices are creeping back over $4 a gallon. The ripple effect isn't some far-off theory. It's very real, and it's happening right now.
And it's not just about the gas pump either. The entire global logistics network is, well, it's seizing up. Flights through the Middle East are down a staggering 59%, and at the same time, hundreds of huge cargo ships are just sitting there, stranded and idle. The world's supply chain is grinding to a halt. So, where do we go from here? The reality is, both of these crises are getting worse. In Sudan, the famine is spreading. In the Middle East, the war is escalating. The path ahead is anything but certain. But what is crystal clear is that global stability is more fragile than it has been in decades.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. You know, when world leaders start using words like critical, you know the situation has reached a whole new level of seriousness. This is now a top-tier global security threat.
And all of this, it really brings us to one final, really critical question. Our humanitarian aid systems, our energy markets, our supply chains, they're all being pushed to the breaking point, all at the same time. And it forces us to ask, what happens next? What happens when our global capacity to actually respond to these things is finally and completely overwhelmed?